Sometimes the magic in cinema comes not just from incredible shots, but from bringing two together to yield something more than the sum of their parts. These are the top 10 most memorable editing moments of all time. Kicking us off at number 10, the beginning of City of God. Bursting with energy, the very first shots of Cidade de Deus thrust us into the rhythm, the music, and the violence of the underbelly of Rio. Jump cuts, repeated action, frenetic montage, and a final bullet-time graphic match wipe sound like a recipe for disaster. But in City of God, they don't just work, they electrify the screen. Next up at number 9, the end of Bonnie and Clyde. Arthur Penn's fateful finale showed us a death unlike any Hollywood had ever seen. The pace accelerates to breakneck speed as a shifty Malcolm and startled flock of birds bring us towards one last glance between mythic lovers before their slow-mo demise.
Here, reach. Now. Come on, I've got you. Up. Come along, Mrs. Thornhill.
At number 8, Hitchcock's North by Northwest. When most think of Hitchcock, they think of a stiff British director, the master of suspense. But even Hitchcock wasn't above a little double entendre. And that's exactly what he used to skirt around censorship laws in what amounts to one giant editorial dick joke. But Hitchcock's got more to him than visual puns. In addition to North by Northwest, which has world-class editing all the way through, we'll be coming back to him for one of the most shocking sequences of all time.
Michael Francis Ritchie, do you renounce Satan?
I do renounce him.
Next up at number 7, the Godfather baptism sequence. One of the most iconic intercut sequences in all of cinema, Coppola's Godfather climax sees Michael Corleone securing his place of power by orchestrating a series of gangland killings, all intercut with his baptismal vow to renounce the powers of evil. The effect of the juxtaposition is haunting. Through the power of association, we see Michael christened as the new Godfather in the blood of his enemies, whose corpses lie motionless, in nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. At number 6, the historic Odessa Steppe sequence of Battleship Potemkin. There's hardly a more celebrated achievement in editing than Eisenstein's Bolshevik propaganda piece. Exemplifying his theory of montage as conflict, the concept of two discrete shots giving rise to an idea bigger and different than their individual meanings. Not only is Potemkin pretty much required watching for Film School 101 around the world, but it's been ripped off, paid homage to, and parodied more times than we can count. Number 5, Psycho. Nothing can prepare you for the shock of the shower scene, the terror of the knife coming at you, the violence, the nudity. Of course, none of it's actually there. There is no actual threat, not a single stab on screen, or even a single frame of nudity. It's all part of the editing that Hitchcock uses to evoke these effects in one's mind. In 78 cuts over 45 seconds, we only see blood washing down the drain, which Hitchcock so beautifully connects with Marion Crane's eye in a final evocative dissolve. Next up at number 4, Un Chien Andalou. When Luis Buñuel approached Salvador Dali with the story of a cloud slitting a moon like a knife, Dali told him about his dream of a hand crawling with ants. Thus became Un Chien Andalou, or the Andalusian dog, a title that means just about as much as anything else in the film, which is to say, nothing at all. But just because it lacks rationality doesn't mean it lacks impact. The eye-slitting sequence is shocking to this day. The graphic match, the dream logic, and the growing dread of the inevitable slice are created entirely through the strange juxtaposition, which just goes to show the massive power of editing. Counting down at number 3, the opening of Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola's meditative masterpiece on the horror of war and the human soul begins in striking fashion. A series of mesmerizing superimpositions connects the slow-motion memories of helicopters to a ceiling fan and the disoriented Captain Willard. There is hardly a better example of the power and beauty of montage in cinema than this sequence. The ideas of each shot literally building one on top of the next, punctuated by the base slices of helicopter blades and orchestrated by the stirring poetry of Jim Morrison. Next up at number 2, the Dawn of Man cut from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Spanning millions of years in a single cut, Stanley Kubrick's visual metaphor works on so many levels, connecting the invention of tools to the advent of space travel, the flight of a bone, to our liftoff to the moon. It is this kind of nonverbal communication that makes editing such an incredible medium, communicating, as Eisenstein prescribed, through the clash of imagery. There's hardly a more iconic match cut than this one from Kubrick's masterpiece, but if we had to pick one, it would probably be number 1, Lawrence of Arabia.
No, Dryden. It's going to be fun.
It is recognized that you have a funny sense of fun.
David Lean's timeless desert epic captured imaginations and inspired generations over 3.5 stunning hours in massive 70mm widescreen. But there's perhaps no single cut more cinematic than when Peter O'Toole blows out a match and transports us to a magnificent desert sunrise. Perhaps it is his smirk or the deep harmonics of the puff of air, but something about this cut carries weight, beauty, and the richness of theme, which is why we think it's the most memorable moment in editing of all time. So what do you think? Were any of these moments less than memorable? Did you find yourself especially missing any of the other classic editing moments we left out? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe to CineFix for more IndieWire movie lists.